All right, we are back. We make it a mission on this channel to cover everything we can, and we're here to cover UFC 330, giving our picks and analysis along the way. I'm once again rejoined by UFC expert Shane. How have you been? It's been a while since the McGregor card was the last time we spoke. How have you been, and how you've been enjoying UFC? Dana White Contender Series last night, as the time of filming this.
I mean, I've been enjoying
Actually,
it.
2 nights ago.
Yeah, I didn't end up watching Dana White Contender Series. I wish I did because it was I heard it was actually pretty good. But I did watch every fight night that happened, and they're pretty good. Like especially the one in Belgrade. That one was awesome. Like all the finishes were so sick.
Yeah, I watched the Jan versus Navajo fight. I was sad to see Jan go down, but now Navajo enters the pictures in light heavyweight.
Dude, that one was hype. I was watching that one with our mutual buddy Sean, and we were like, and I was like, dude, this guy not. And I was talking literally all the talking points right before John Anik and fucking DC said the same exact thing back. Just it might have not been John Anik, it might have been Paul Felder and Bisbing, but pretty much saying exactly what I was saying back. Just like Navajo Sterling took this fight on short notice, and he is a killer in the division waiting to come. And I mean, you know me, I've been pretty high on Navajo for a while now. I think I told you about him when
I remember it was like his first, like one of his first fights. I didn't really know much about him. I was one of the first times we potted together.
Mm-hmm.
And you let me know.
I've been super high on him, and now like especially how he did Jan, like nobody does Jan like that, man.
Yeah,
Ankalaev sure did not do Jan like that. Like, come on. Like, I just, I do want to see him, his grappling more, but he looked great. Like against Jan, he looked great. So that is like the one thing that I would love to say. That I'm glad that you brought that up because I would have forgotten. One thing over all these fight nights, Navajo Sterling. Oh my God, that performance was awesome.
Yeah, it's gonna be. Belgrade was fun. Last week was a little weak just outside of the main event, but Sal Keed's now a player.
Oh my God, that was sick too. Oh my God, yeah.
The Ankalaev fight, the aforementioned Ankalaev, we're just not going to talk about that one. But we're here today to talk about UFC 330 taking place in Philadelphia this weekend, this Saturday. You and I kind of had a 1-minute chat before we jumped on the live air here, but I admitted to you, I've covered all these events. I try and get as excited as I can, but there's just not really any storylines that I'm particularly looking forward to this. I mean, there's the Ian Machado-Garry of it all. And like, obviously he's his own sort of whatever you want to say about him in his personal life. But just from a fighting standpoint, usually at least there's 1 or 2 fights, even on the main card of the prelims, that I'm excited to see what happens. And, there are some decent guys fighting on this card, but I'm not feeling the juice going into this Saturday for some reason. I don't know. You said you kind of feel similar to that, but if there's energy's not there, that's why. But I'm gonna try and get into it for the viewers and figure out maybe we can make some money.
Yeah, I was about to say because I was also bringing this up to a buddy that or a coworker that doesn't really watch that much, but was like, "Oh yeah, I heard that fight card's coming up." And I'm like, "Listen, man, it's not that strong. If you follow, there's some cool names in here, but nothing that really is going to be motion in any division really."
There's no ranked fighters outside of the title fights, I believe.
Well, Charles Johnson's ranked now, right?
Is he? He might have got kicked out. He might got booted out of the rankings.
You might be right.
Because they sent him down to the mid prelims. He's not even on the main card anymore now. Obviously, Ochoa. I mean, Ochoa might have pulled himself into the rankings. I don't know, but he pulled out. So now we have him versus or Johnson versus an unranked, untested guy. We'll get into that fight, but I believe there's no ranked guys on this one.
No, you're right. You're right. Charles Johnson's number 21 on Topology at least. So, yeah, that's rough.
It's rough. But, there's some exciting prospects maybe that you can put your we'll get into it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, maybe we'll find some fun along the way. I will say for 329, I actually did very well. So I'm on a little bit of a hot streak in terms of that. The fight nights haven't gone as well, but I think I got every fight right except for the Terrence McKinney fight and then the Benoit fight. I should have listened to you on that with Patty.
Oh, my God, that was sick.
I think we did well at 329, so we could continue the mojo here for 330. There is a lot of lopsided odds on this one, and we'll just get right into it. a guy I'm surprised to see is the first fight of the night. Myktybek Orolbai. You know, I feel like he has this sort of fan base, and he probably has a bigger fan base than a lot of the people we'll talk about coming up. So just curious, is this like a start off the fight with a bang, or start off the card with a bang? You know, he gets a finish, something like that. Like, what do you see the logic as making this the first fight of the night, if anything? I mean, the odds are kind of lopsided. So if you want to talk about how you think this is going to go, but kind of your thoughts on this being our opener here. I thought this was like an odd choice.
It is super interesting to start with this. I definitely agree with that. I mean, if you look at Topology, which does the rankings further down than just the UFC top 15, he's 17 at welterweight. So, like,
yeah,
right below there. And Jeremiah Wells, I think, is lower than he should be at 29. But I think that, yeah, Orolbai is the obvious hero here, and I think that he's obvious to win. And I don't think me or you are going to really pick him because I don't think there's that much money in it. I do think that Jeremiah Wells is getting a little disrespected by the line, but Orolbai is a tank. Like, it's not so much. It's more that I do believe that Jeremiah Wells does have the tools, but he's let me down before, and yeah, I might sprinkle something on him, but I totally will believe Orolbai here. But,
yeah, well, we see, or we saw that classic fight between Orolbai and Rebecki. Like, is there like potential for Wells to pull that off?
Dude, that makes me think about both of their like trajectories after that fight, because I really thought that they were both gonna go crazy, and then Rebecki had his little downturn, and Orolbai had not really a downturn, but just kind of a slower buildup. And yeah, I don't think. I mean, I guess there's always a chance with a guy like Orolbai. If Jeremiah Wells can stay in there, then yes, I think that Jeremiah Wells has the ability to put the damage on him to create that. It's just how much can he take back. I think it would be more so like the closest thing would be Jeremiah Wells not really getting touched that much from either grappling or just defense, and Orolbai getting beat up 3 rounds and then maybe getting like a final knockout or something. If you're looking for like a war type thing, like something closer to the Rebecki fight. But I think a guy like Orolbai, there's always the chance. But I don't think Jeremiah Wells has the chin of Rebecki to do what was I don't think he has what it takes to replicate that.
Well, I think the thing with Orolbai, didn't he move up when he fought Hermanson, and then I could be wrong on that, but I feel like
I think he might be.
Because I think it was the lightweight to welterweight, because Rebecki's a lightweight, right? So, I mean, if Orolbai's jumping up in weight, but we've seen him now, he's fought Chris Curtis as well. But I think for Jeremiah Wells, you could look at the Chris Curtis performance, and yeah, is Jeremiah Wells as good as Chris Curtis? Maybe not, but that was kind of like a low output fight. Orolbai kind of just like got his takedown. So like there is a window there maybe for Jeremiah Wells. So I would agree with you. The odds aren't that close. The odds should be closer. But I'm not going to go against Orolbai. I'm actually an Orolbai fan myself. So I'll say Orolbai wins this by like late 3rd round knockout. I'm going to take the over on the rounds. None of the props are out yet either, which is weird. But
I forgot about, given a full pick, I will go Orolbai. I will go Orolbai round 2.
Okay. All right. Well, we move up the card, and on the earlier prelims is another crafty vet, Neil Magny. He's been in the game forever, and so is Ramiz Brahimaj. He's been around for a while, so this is one of the closer fights on the card when it comes to the odds. Neil Magny's a guy I'm always confused on what to do. I feel like he's up and he's down, and then Brahimaj is, a little bit all over the place as well. So this should be a fun fight, I think. But I'm curious to see, who do you think comes out on top here, and what are you looking for in this one?
This is a dog pick, folks. This is a dog pick. And this is a Neil Magny domination win here. This is a patented. Unless it's really the time where the clock finally strikes and Neil Magny's actually going to get for real old and not be able to do it anymore, I think that this is the classic. Neil Magny goes against someone that's actually similar rank to him, or similar skill level to him, not someone that's up and coming, that's using him as a stepping stone, which he still has turned back, like a oh my god, what's that Canadian guy's name?
Mike Malott.
Yeah, Mike Malott. Thank you. Like he did with Mike Malott. But I think that this is the type of fight that he wins to bounce him back into the or close to the rankings to again fight another guy that up and coming that beats him or gets turned back or beats him, someone that's up and coming next. But I think this is a patented he wins this. I mean, Brahimaj is I know you said that he is like he is also a pretty old head. He has got quite a few fights in the UFC, but he is still pretty nubile compared to Neil Magny. Like,
yeah, well, Neil Magny is like one of the unks.
Yeah, he is like a true unk too. 31-14 is insane.
How old is Neil Magny?
That's a good question. He is 39, which is crazy that he has that many fights at 39. I thought he would have been older.
I feel like, yeah, when 39 is still a decent age. Once you get into the 40s, I get a little nervous, but
exactly. I think this is a patented. He beats this guy in dominant fashion. I will give you Neil Magny. Ooh, I'm kind of feeling if Neil Magny by submission is a lot better odds than Neil Magny by knockout, then I'm going.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, we don't have
we don't have the props yet, but if it's crazy, then I'm going sub, but if they're similar, then I'm going KO.
So I actually like a duel here. Our other mutual friend, Jake, he likes these little duel bets. So my bet for this fight is going to be either Brahimaj via submission or Magny via decision.
Yeah. I've been seeing those recently. Sorry.
Yeah. So I don't know. Some of them are really bad odds, and unfortunately, we don't have the props here. But I think Magny either can just do kind of a domination, like you said, beats him up 2 to 3 rounds, gets the decision, or Brahimaj pulls like a fluke sub in like the second or first or second round. But if I have to give an official pick, I'll go with Neil Magny by decision. I just feel like he's going to be more crafty, figured out maybe a 29-28. Brahimaj wins like the first round, but then Magny locks in. I'm in your camp. I don't think Magny's done yet until we really see him start to string together losses. And even then, sometimes guys come back. So I'm going to trust in the vet here, Neil Magny by decision.
I will say I think this would be a real telling one. If he loses this in dominant fashion, I don't think Ramiz Brahimaj, no offense to him, I don't think he's one of the guys that are up and coming in this weight class. I think he's kind of like a move up a little bit, move down a little bit, move up a little bit kind of guy, and kind of similar to Neil Magny. So I think, and Neil Magny's like the pinnacle of like that kind of guy. Him and like Jeff Neal.
Well, even looking at Magny's most 3 recent losses, Michael Morales is a #1 contender, Project #1 contender. Amasov looks really good against Joel Alvarez, we'll talk about later on this one. So those are 3 like up and coming guys. Then you go back even more. Ian Machado-Garry was his other loss, now fighting for the title. So those are his 4 most recent losses. I feel like we're not ready to turn away Neil Magny yet. He still got it. I believe in him.
I believe in him as well.
All right, let's get to a light heavyweight fight. We have Rafael Tobias versus Lucas Fernando. So these are the fights I don't really like to bet on just because we have Lucas Fernando coming in from the Dana White Contender Series. He did face off against Cesar Almeida. He lost, but now he's back in. He also has a loss to Azamat Bakoev on his kind of resume. And then you have Rafael Tobias, who just joined in 2025 in the Dana White Contender Series. So it's like, I don't know which direction to go here. I don't know if you have any advanced intel on either of these sort of younger guys in their career, at least with the UFC. Did you see anything here going on that you're interested in?
I will say, yeah, I just think that Lucas Fernando's he's got a very good build for this weight class. And honestly, I think that that's where I think that this is a great one to parlay with something. I think Fernando's a pretty good pick here. I agree with you. Dana White Contender Series guys can be really tough, especially when they have losses to people that we've seen in the UFC that are kind of like middle tier, like a Cesar Almeida. But I think, it's tough. Rafael, I believe in this. I think Lucas Fernando makes a decent win. It might be close, but I think that this is one that I'm parlaying just money line with something else. I don't feel confident going A.
And this is one of even the closer, like when you get to the main card, it's all big odds. This is even if you're taking Fernando, that could be a good piece to throw into a parlay because
Exactly.
Some of the odds later on are a little drastic. But I should also say Tobias lost to Dr. Nergozi, or however you say his name, and he just got schooled, I think, a couple weekends ago, either one of the last couple of fight nights. So that's not a great loss to have on your resume as well. So yeah, I'm going to go with you. I'm going to say Lucas Fernando, round 2 knockout. But I'm not going to bet on it because it's Dana White Contender Series, and I like going with these fights. But
yeah.
All right, middleweight. It's time for Vicente Luque and also Tresean Gore. Both of these guys, if you asked me a year or two ago, I'd be surprised that they both are still in the UFC, just the way their careers are kind of heading, both losing, especially Luque, who's kind of older in the game. But he showed us, I think we covered that UFC 327 event when he got the first round win, submission over Kelvin Gastelum. And then Tresean Gore just won one in April over Azamat Makhachev. So both these guys pick up big wins, and they're sort of not up and coming, but Gore is kind of trying to find his way to stay in the UFC, and Luque is trying to stay in the UFC as well. So sort of a veteran versus a young guy, both trying to fight for their spot on the roster, coming off 2 big wins. What do you see in this one?
I mean, I think you would hope Tresean Gore is still hungry because he can't just take that last win over Bekov, or however you say it. He can't just take that and think that he's good, because you have to remember the Vieira fight, he missed weight as well as losing.
Oh, he did. Okay.
That's something that the UFC really doesn't take lightly.
Brian Battle.
Exactly. And so I'm really interested to see how weigh-ins go for him too, because I know that he's someone that's always been kind of scary to watch on the scales. So I think once we see that, then I'll probably be more confident. But for now, not fully confident in Tresean Gore being locked in. I'm going Vicente Luque by... I'll go by decision.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, this might be a hard overhead pick. I feel like I'm always riding with Luque, but as a slight dog here too. And I'm curious to see maybe if money splashes in on Luque, but this is probably the most even fight on odds-wise. Pretty even 104, 104. But I'm going with Vicente Luque. And I know his usual method submission. I'm not sure he's going to be able to submit Gore. I'm thinking like a 29-28. Gore starts off first round strong, and then Luque locks in last 2 rounds when he gets some takedowns and stuff. But I feel like coming off that Kelvin Gastelum performance, wasn't that Kelvin Gastelum? He retired Kelvin Gastelum. So I'm pretty excited to see what Luque's got for us. Yeah, I don't know. This is going to be a fun fight to watch. Starting off the prelims, 2 guys that I'm kind of rooting for both these guys to do their thing, but someone has to win and someone has to lose, and I think Luque will win by decision. All right, more middleweight action. It's Donte Johnson and Eric McConico. So I want to start with Donte Johnson. He beat Cedric Dumas, won his Dana White Contender Series, but then he had that matchup where he was supposed to go against Dusko Todorovic, and then Cody Brundage stepped in, Cody Brundage, if you remember the beginning of this year, fought 7 times in the span of 3 months.
Yeah.
I think he jumped in here on 2 weeks' notice. He had just been either knocked out or lost a close decision or something. I remember how is he still in here? And this was a very underwhelming performance out of Donte Johnson, just based off expectations. He got the win, and it was a split decision win, but that did not inspire a lot of confidence in moving forward with Donte Johnson. So I'm curious, what do you think about Donte Johnson? And we can kind of relate that to how you see it playing out against Eric McConico here.
I do agree that performance was very lackluster, and you would like to see a lot more from a guy who's undefeated. But what I will say here is I don't really trust Eric McConico at all. And to be honest, with how much up and downs Cody Brundage and Cedric Dumas have had, I think that those guys are harder to beat than McConico, just from a skill point level and from their different styles. And yeah, I think, and those are the 2 wins that Donte Johnson has on in the UFC. So right. I think by those standards, which UFC or MMA math almost always never adds up, but I'm going with Donte Johnson here. I think this is an obvious pick. I think this is going to be part of the parlay that I throw with
Fernando.
Yeah, that I throw with Fernando.
I'm going to go opposite. This isn't one that I have a ton of confidence in, but I'm going to go with Eric McConico by decision. Donte Johnson, he needs the knockout in the first or second round based off of what I watched. I don't know, I'm actually glad to have watched one of his fights to kind of know what I'm talking about here, but he gassed out against Cody. And I feel like Eric McConico he has a loss to Bisinger, who is, I guess his hype train's kind of been derailed, but he was a big prospect coming in. And Eric McConico just got the win over Rodolfo Vieira, who's like kind of a, somewhat of a guy at least. I don't know. I think this is like take the chance, and if it happens, we know for sure. But if Donte Johnson wins, I'll be like, I was wrong, and I'll be looking forward to his next fights. But I think it's going to be Donte Johnson round 1 knockout, or Eric McConico like 29-28 split decision. So I'm going to go with the split decision, Eric McConico. Why not?
I'll be honest. As someone who saw that live, the Eric McConico loss live, that was the main reason. I have a sour taste in my mouth from Eric McConico. He busted my parlay. So good luck to you, but be prepared.
I'm not going to actually bet on this, and that's something I need to lock in on as well. Is like these are the fights I actually know what I'm talking about, and this is a tough one too because it's like this is going to be. Donte Johnson is either a really good prospect and we're overlooking him to the Cody Barnage fight, or it's like he is not actually that good. It might be like a Zell Hooper situation. So that's how I'm going to kind of lean on this moving forward from this fight. So this is like kind of a telling one for me, but I'm not going to actually bet on it. But if I had to give a pick, that's going to be my pick just for fun's sake. But I understand your frustration, especially being in person. I've never even had the honor of being in person for UFC. So we'll see how it goes. Donte Johnson will have to report back on that one. And then we go to flyweight, where Charles Johnson versus Ochoa was supposed to be the third fight on the card, leading up the last fight before the title fights. Unfortunately, Jose Ochoa had to pull out due to something, I'm not sure what. Enter Eduardo Chapolin in from other promotions. Actually, no, he is a Dana White Contender Series guy himself, so at least he has that experience under his belt. And at least, when we had Charles Johnson versus Ochoa, those are two guys who can like mix it up and make it fun. So that was like at least something that we had on the main card. Unfortunate that Ochoa had to be taken off. But now Chapolin's in there. He's only plus 102 on, what was it, yesterday or the day before this was announced, on like 3 or 4 days notice. So do you trust the volatility of Charles Johnson and the experience of him, or do you think that this new guy can come in and kind of Ethan Ewing this thing and get the win here?
This feels like a joke. This feels like a prank, and I had to double check because what the fuck are these odds, dude? This is a way wider skill gap fight than the Orolbai Jeremiah Wells, and I might be crazy for saying this, but at least by maybe not totally, but the odds are insane. Charles Johnson, easy money line, easy, and he can get it done anyway. But Charles Johnson money line. Have you seen his strength of schedule? It's insane. Everybody that he fights becomes champion or the top 5 at least, or is on their way to top 5.
He also owns a win over Joshua Van, which
that's what I mean.
It's either him. I think Van has like 1 or 2 losses.
Yeah, it's him, Van, and Launer. And then there's he also has. I think his most recent loss is that what's that guy?
Asu.
Asu, dude. And that guy's going to be top 5, like in the flyweight too. Like in the flyweight, DC says this every time, and he's going to say it again with Charles Johnson when he goes out there again. It's so tough to be in the flyweight division because of how many different styles and how fast the pace is, and it's true. All right, and it is annoying to hear it every time, but it's true. And everyone that hasn't heard it does need to hear it because it's true. And any casual that thinks otherwise is crazy. Like it's just the highest tempo, highest mixed martial art like skill floor, I would say, in a division.
Any worry for Charles Johnson? This is going to be his 4th fight this year.
Yeah, so absolutely. Because it's the flyweight division, you don't know what you're going to get, especially from someone that just came off a win in Dana White Contender Series. That makes it, they're coming off very hot. And Charles Johnson is coming off, a loss, but like
he's 1-2 this year in his fights.
Yeah, and you have to, and sure the win is by split, so I'm sure he's hungry to get that win back, and so this is tough. This is like he does kind of. I don't want to say he needs to win this because he doesn't. He has so much time to still float in the flyweight division if he wants, but I think it's more a mental thing. I think he would be a guy that's kind of more ready to call it quits because of how tough and how grueling it is. But I don't know. He is tough, obviously, but it's tough. It's hard.
Yeah. Ultimately, I'm not going to bet on this one just because I don't like this Dana White Contender Series guy. Could be the shit or he could be terrible. You know, it's so hard, especially going against Charles Johnson, who, like you mentioned, has a great career in flyweight, has been around the block, knows what he's doing. So I'm just going to land on Charles Johnson decision. I think this is going to be maybe drawn out to the later rounds. Charles looks good to start, and then maybe Eduardo finds him. I think this might be a 30-27, but we leave going like, oh, this Chapolin guy maybe can hang in there. He's just got to learn a little bit more and maybe get easier opponents. I know flyweight is probably a little bit more bare than some of the other divisions in terms of outside of the rankings, but this is a tall task to jump in on, and it's not like he's like Kaue Sakura or one of these crazy guys who come in with immediate hype. I hadn't heard of this guy up until he joined, and Charles Johnson, his opponent pulled out, but at least he knew he had a fight. Chapolin is on 3 or 4 days notice. So I think all the signs lead to Charles Johnson, and if Chapolin gets this done, raise the banners. But I just think from a logistical standpoint, and I think we learned from the McGregor card, sometimes just from a logistical standpoint, it's the easy approach that wins. So I'm going to go with Charles Johnson, probably by decision. Just, kind of master classes, shows why he's still here, and then he's able to kind of continue to float around in that outside of the rankings area. So yeah, that's where I'm on that. So we agree on that one. More welterweight action. It's Chidi, Njokuani, and Joel Alvarez. So Joel Alvarez is a guy that let me down against Amasov. I guess I kind of just missed the boat on Amasov being hype. I'm not sure what you thought going into that fight versus Amasov. I can't remember. But Amasov beats him. That was at UFC 328. So only 2 numbered events later, here he is. Must have got the 90-day clearance. And then you have Chidi Njokuani, who's been around for about 5 years in the UFC. Not a bunch of great wins on his resume. But there is the question out there of is Joel Alvarez overhyped? I know they were kind of trying to build up at least the Spain stars. There's always that, are we going to get a card in Spain with Ilya? And then you have Joel Alvarez, and there's probably a couple other guys I'm missing. But I know Spain is an area of focus for the UFC right now. What do you think about this one as we kind of head into, actually, this is our last one before the main card, the featured fight of the prelims?
One thing I will say about Chidi is that his wins sure aren't that great, but his losses aren't bad. There are some kind of head scratchers in there for sure, but most of those guys are at least someone that you have on your radar when they come up in a fight card, like an Ola Jacek, who might have hurt your heart in the past, but a Ola Jacek, like a Jake Matthews, like a Carlos Leal, like a Gregory Rodriguez. They are up and down guys, but they're people that show promise and have had their nights. And Chidi has had his nights too, and he has, again, a really good frame, but so does Joel Alvarez. So what I will say is this one is probably, in my eyes, I think this is top 2 closest fights on the card, regardless of favorites or whatever. So with that said, I probably would just sprinkle a little bit on Chidi knockout, ground and pound.
Okay. This is my breaking point with Joel Alvarez. This is the last time. If he loses and I bet on him, I'm never betting on him again. But I think he can get back in good graces here. He's been around a little bit longer. He does have that hype behind him. I feel like there's something I'm missing here. But he's been able to this is a good fight. I agree with you that this is going to be a close fight. 2 guys who are kind of in that middle range. I think Joel Alvarez was ranked for a while, and then he fell out of the rankings after the Amasov fight. But I'm going to go with Alvarez. I just think he's slightly better than Njokuani. How he gets it done, you know what? I think we're going to go with a submission. We'll go with Alvarez, round 2 submission over Chidi Njokuani.
Yeah, and I'll specify more. Njokuani round. I'm gonna go round 3 ground and pound. Maybe, yeah, round 3.
Okay. Well, let's hope for a lot of finishes. I think Belgrade broke the record for first round knockouts.
That was insane. Yeah, they did. That was crazy.
All right. Well, the main card is here. The sort of appetizers of the main card are not as plentiful as we're used to, but we're going to get through it. We've got 2 big lopsided fights, and then a fighter we love to talk about, and then 2 title fights. So let's get into it. Starting it off, we have lightweight. Edson Barboza, Esteban Ribovics. Is this just a simple veteran doing his time, getting knocked out by the up-and-coming Ribovics, who had been kind of facing some adversity recently? Or is there a chance for Edson to do something here in your eyes?
I mean, Edson Barboza is at that point that we said, that 40 point, which I don't want to put a direct line and say this is when fighters start getting bad or this is when they are bad, because everyone's different. I mean, people have different longevities, genetics, training, diet, whatever it is. But this is just tough, man. This is one that I don't even want to throw on the parlay because it feels useless, but I'm going to put the Ribovics money line on there. But it's I can see a world where Barboza does it, but every world that I see it, he's 10 years younger. So it's tough, but I think, yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say Ribovics money line, and I think I can see where if you want to convince yourself into betting on him, I can see where you get there, but the only way I see that is if he's 10 years younger or if he turns back the clock and has an explosive thing again.
Well, we did cover that UFC 319 fight when he fought against Drakkar Klose, and I remember watching, I think I was driving and listening to the audio for that fight. I think he had something for Drakkar Klose, it wasn't just a runaway victory for Klose, because I was betting on Klose that fight. But yeah, after Jalin Turner, who we'll talk about later, unretires, comes in here, knocks you out round 1. There's just nothing in my brain or heart telling me that he's going to be able to turn it around and be able to beat Ribovics, and maybe he has a Michael Johnson performance. But that's not something I'm going to sit back and actively predict. I think this is a spot where Ribovics, has been kind of up and down ever since that crazy war against Zellhuber, who, I've done my part on these previews shitting on Zellhuber. I think he's a fraud. But Ribovics just lost to Gamrot, and we covered that one as well. But I think this is kind of a spot to get him back into a winning scenario. And, lightweight is stacked. I know the 1 through 15 in lightweight, it's hard to crack that. But I think Ribovics is all right, I just lost via submission. Gamrot just lost as well, so maybe that's not a great look for him. I think he'd be hungry to get back in the win column, make this look easy. I'm going Ribovics round 1 KO. I think there's no reason why he shouldn't be able to knock him out in the first round.
I will say, I'm living in the universe that was just a crazy performance by Killen Salkield, and Gamrot is still an elite grappler and submission artist.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, now Salkied's top, you have to go based on what happened. Salkied's a top 5 contender at lightweight. It might be crazy to fucking say.
Yeah, exactly. And I haven't heard anything still about, and maybe I'm just out of the loop. I haven't heard anything about Gamrot saying, "Oh, I had a bad camp. This was injured before going. I'm sick. I had a crazy life thing happen." So it's that's. Yeah, I think that that's a good, one of those losses that I would say is a good loss on the resume. Losing to Gamrot, you learn a lot more than just a first round knockout over someone. Yeah.
So I remember actually watching that Gamrot versus Ribovics fight. So just quickly, is there a scenario where Barboza is able to use that grappling? Obviously, he probably doesn't have the same level of grappling as Gamrot, but is he going to be able to control that sort of part of the fight? Do you think is that a path of victory for Barboza? Maybe.
Yeah, I totally see that as probably his game plan. I see his game plan is probably lure him in with kicks, because he's long, so he's going to want to engage once he starts kicking him and be okay, I'm the longer guy, let me outkick you. And then Ribovics is long, by the way. And so I think he's going to do that once Ribovics starts kicking, leg, shoot, try and get him confident. And if I'm someone who's really feeling a Barboza turn back the clock win, I'm going Barboza decision or Barboza submission like round 3 or round 2.
Okay. But your official pick is?
My official pick is Ribovics money line on the parlay, or if you're taking it one bet, Ribovics knockout round 2.
Okay. All right. Another prospect who's been sort of tested is Mansur Abdul-Malik. This felt like almost a Teba Gutierrez like parallel situation where, they kind of warmed him up for a while, maybe more than most prospects do. And we like a Teba Gutierrez on this channel. But interesting, fights that were given to him. And the problem is in March, he actually lost via third round. And I know your guy, Aljamain Sterling, was just on the Joe Rogan podcast. I caught the clip of them kind of chatting about this card. And this is the fight that Joe pointed out besides the 2 title fights that they were talking about. And they were like, oh, I want to see what Mansur does when he gets back in there. And this Bulgari guy was massive for the division. So, let's not forget about Dustin Stoltzfus, who's also fighting in this and also, crazy enough, beat Joe Pyfer on the Dana White Contender Series. Wow. But since then, it's been a little rough in his kind of career since then, losing to kind of the unks of the division. So thoughts on this one? Is this a similar fight to the last one, or is there more potential for the underdog, or are you more confident in the sort of favorite here, or just the same as last fight?
I'm super confident in the favorite because, I see why people are high on Stoltzfus, but I feel like I am contradicting myself a little bit by saying you're only good as your most recent self. But he is someone who, I don't know. He seems like the Ateba or the Mansur experiment gone wrong type of thing, where they just kept on giving him I don't want to say easy opponents because of what Joe Pyfer came to be, and Obus is a pretty tough one, but
well, it feels like he's fighting guys who are fighting for that number 15 spot, GM3 a while ago, Abbas, Bruno Ferreira, Kelvin Gastelum,
Ruziboyev,
world fight,
Mershart. Oh my God, You're right. That is Kyle Dawkins, Rodolfo Vieira. These are all the guys that I think have held number 15 at some point or are going to, and that's a really good point. And I think Mansur is going I don't know, and maybe it's just the experiment and the way that they're hyping him up, similar to Ateba, but I feel like that it's just he's so far and above this kind of guy, and and he dodged some bullets too. I don't know if it shows it where you're looking, but Stoltzfus' 2 canceled bouts in the UFC are Anthony Hernandez and Cal Barrio, so he really dodged some other bullets. So I think Mansur is a tough cookie to crack, even though we did just see him lose. I think that's going to be, and that's a great point that I haven't watched that clip yet, or that podcast yet, but that's a great point. Yeah, this is a huge, if you're thinking of people that are going to the most motion in any division, realistically, this is the only person that I see that that has a chance to go on a title run, or has the most realistic chance to go on a title run. And sure, it's because
Ribovics, but lightweight is so stacked.
You're right, Ribovics too, yeah. But I think that
he lost to Gamrot, or
Mansur.
Yeah.
You're right. No, you're right too. Ribovics is the only guy why I hesitated. Him, and I guess you could still argue Joel Alvarez, but I don't. But yeah, exactly. Mansur just is so much younger in his career, or maybe has been so much more baby that his path is so much wider. Whereas Ribovics has had those losses, which kind of tightens your path and makes it a lot more tough to get up to that. But Mansur still has some time to make those mistakes, kind of, or at least learn before he makes them. And I think that that's a really good point, and that this is definitely a fight if you're a UFC fan, which that is kind of the point that I wanted to say when I was talking to my coworker, that this isn't a great card from numbers wise, but it has some like great names if you're a UFC fan. Like if you go from the bottom to the top, Orolbai, Neil Magny, Vicente Luque, Charles Johnson, Chidi, Joel Alvarez, Ribovics, Edson Barboza, Mansur, Jalin Turner. Like these are all kind of guys that you see on a card and you're like, oh, I'm kind of excited. It just sucks that they're all together on this card. It doesn't build it up enough. But
Yeah.
these are guys that like you would be excited to see them on a prelim fight. And so I'm still excited for this card. I think it's going to be decent fights. It's just it doesn't have that same hyper feel. And that was just a point that I really wanted to make at some point is that like if you're like a true UFC fan, yes, sure, this isn't. There's nothing to look forward to after. Maybe Mansur is really the only one that, other than the title fights, that's like okay, this is going to affect something bigger picture here. But other than that, it's just kind of like that these guys have had good fights. And most of them have also lost in spectacular ways, or won in spectacular ways. And so, like, I'm excited. I'm still very excited to watch every single one of these fights.
Yeah, and just one last point on Mansur. Like, I feel like, tell me if I'm going too far here, but I feel like there are people that the UFC does look out for when scheduling. Tabo Gutierrez, Paddy Pimblett come to mind of like, let's warm him up. So I think the UFC does have a vetted interest in Mansur. So going back to your point of like a title contention, if you were to win this fight, there is probably a better chance for him because you can tell the UFC like does enjoy him or wants him to be good. So
that was also why I picked him over Ribovics in terms of like the person with the highest chance to make a title fight, which maybe is how I should have worded it.
As for official picks, I'm going to go with Mansur, but I think it takes a little longer than the first round. I'm just going to say like late round 2 knockout for Mansur Abdul-Malik here.
I love that. I was actually about to say the same thing. Late round 2, maybe like super early round 3 knockout.
Yeah, I'm seeing that vision as well. All right, well, last fight before the title fights, we have Jalin Turner versus Kaue Fernandez. I believe that's how you say his name. Please correct me if that's wrong. But Jalin Turner, UFC 300 was a tough look, and then he had the loss to Ignacio Bahamondes, which was a tough look. Literally called it quits after the fight, but now he came back. Who is the guy who like inspired him to come back? Was it Ian Machado-Garry?
Oh fuck!
There was somebody who was like, "You got to come back, brother." Like whatever.
Who was it? Was it like? It might have been someone he fought. Like, was it like Bobby Green or something?
It might have been Bobby G. Yeah.
Might have. I think it. Turn. I just want to look. You Phil. I want to figure out.
Yeah. So I mean, he's back, and we saw him actually beat up Edson Barboza in round 1 of the early prelims on that last big numbered event of actually one of the last pay-per-view of ESPN. And now here comes Kaue Fernandez. He's been kind of middling around in my opinion, but I do have one friend out there who I'm sure is going to love to fade Jalin Turner this weekend after what he witnessed at UFC 300. He said, I'm never betting on Jalin Turner again. And for me, it's just like I kind of have Edson Barboza classified as, he's sort of done. So I don't know how much I value that win for Jalin Turner, but it is good to see him get back in the win column. So I'm not going to probably have a actual bet for this fight. This will be interesting to watch, and I'm sure the people I usually watch with it'll be excited to see the reaction to Jalin Turner because they're not big fans of him. If he's able to either pull off a win or he gets slimed out, it'll be funny to watch. But do you have any insights into Kaue Fernandez? I know he's beat Harry Hardwick. I believe Harry Hardwick's now out of the UFC, and he lost to Mark Diakise. But I don't know much about this guy, so break this one down.
Yeah, no, I and by the way, it was Ian Garry. You were correct. It was Ian Garry's camp.
Because I did see a clip of Ian being like, he ran up to him and was like, "Oh, what's up?" Like, because they're on the same card, obviously, right now. But
yeah, it is such a cool. It is. He is someone that like, I get why people hate him, but like to me, he just hit like a chord with me where it's like, I could imagine what it's like to be 15-9 professional, and you're like still young, and you see all these people like kind of destroy their bodies, but then you just lose that passion over a couple tough losses, but you just have you have all the skills. Like he has the craziest build for lightweight. Like he is the tarantula for a reason. He's literally got the Kevin Durant build, and it's just like, I I've always loved his fights, and I've always loved seeing him on a card. And he's someone that I'm just going to bet on, even through the wins and losses. He's like someone that's kind of low key been one of my like favorite fighters. We've talked about it before. I feel like where we've just kind of always had this kind of like weird kind of like he's a cool guy. Like I understand why he retired, but it sucked to see, and it was awesome to see him return. And it was such a feel good like post-fight interview, and it like the emotions that like just person to person, the emotions that must emit is crazy. And now you're the featured bout. Sure, it's a people might hate on you, but like you gotta hype yourself up in this sport, and like you're the featured bout on a numbered card. Like you're the right below the 2 championship fights, and that's awesome. I can only imagine that this is a great return win, and this is an awesome one to throw on my parlay because I think he's more of a favorite. I don't think Fernandez has shown anything to show that he's like someone to really look out for. His great wins have come pre-UFC. His first round knockouts in the UFC have been, in my opinion, kind of lackluster. The Yayo one was his best win, but the calf kick against Harry Hardwick, who then got released, is not great for the resume. I don't think. I think that's one of the lighter wins that you can have on a resume. And then his other wins are just kind of mid, in my opinion. And it's and I think Jalin Turner I hope he has that fire again. He's someone that I'm just gonna bet on. I don't care. So
I respect that. Yeah, I mean, I never have had personal opinion or personal like beef with Jalin Turner. I'm excited to see him get back in there. He's another name. I mean, lightweight's just stacked to the brim already, but like to see it like on this card, there's not too many people are popping out to me as like, oh, I want to see what happens. But I'm curious to see like, is Jalin Turner able to turn it around again and get, he got the win to get back in it, but is he really going to go back to where he was before? I believe like when he fought, who was it, Money Moicano at 300, or was it? I think it was Money Moicano. But
yeah, it was.
He was like right outside the rankings. Like I know he had done well up until then. Like is he able to kind of make himself a name back at lightweight? So I am curious to see how this goes. So yeah, I'll root for him. I'll say Jalin Turner wins this either 29-28 or 30-27 decision. I don't know if Fernandez, he hasn't gotten chinned or submitted yet, so I'm not sure if Turner's gonna be the first one to do that. Maybe it's like a slow start for him, because he did come back and did fight Edson Barboza, but he got him out of there in the first round. So I guess you could say like cardio ? But I don't know. I'm gonna go with Turner decision 30-27. I'll say because I don't trust this Fernandez person's resume as of yet, but.
Yeah, my final thing is it is something to be noted is that they do have pretty bad decision split losses. But I mean, obviously, Jalin Turner's is to a way greater degree. It's against Gamrot, who's way better than I forgot who Kaue lost his split against in his UFC debut against Mark Diakese. But I think that's something to note. I think that a split decision it would kind of really suck to see for either of their hype. I would love to see a knockout, which is something that I would if I'm going Jalin Turner knockout.
Okay.
Round maybe 2, I would say. But Jalin Turner knockout.
All right. Well, we've gotten to it. The 2 title fights of the evening. Starting it off, we have the women's strawweight fight, which Mackenzie Dern gets back in there. I believe this was a pretty long layoff because she was on the Cyril Gahn card in September, so this is almost a year later. Unfortunate how, I saw MMA Guru posted about Navajo Sterling. He's like, now that Navajo Sterling became good, I'm really going to see him fight because when you get into the top of the rankings, they barely fight in the champions and stuff. But some of them are better than others, especially Merab, your guy. But we're here to talk about Mackenzie Dern taking 11 months off, basically, and here she is back again. Impressive win over Jandiroba. I remember I picked against her for that one, so I was impressed with her there. And Jillian Robertson is an interesting opponent for her in her first defense of the title. And, I sent you the Instagram reel yesterday. We know there's a person waiting out there. I don't know where she's at. Maybe you can get into that after we kind of give our picks for this fight. But it's Mackenzie Dern versus Jillian Robertson. And to me, I'm going to say this, and you let me know if this is a wrong take or you disagree. I just think Mackenzie Dern is just like an upgraded version of Jillian Robertson. Like, that's the way I'm looking at this fight. So I'm going to go with Mackenzie Dern by decision in this one. And I know there are some tough losses that she does have in her career, Mackenzie Dern especially, but I feel like lately she's locked in. So I'm going to go with Mackenzie Dern. I just think she's a better version than Jillian Robertson. And I know Jillian Robertson has crazy wrestling, right? I actually watched that entire fight she had against Amanda Lemos. I keep betting on Amanda Lemos, and she keeps losing. It's an addiction I have. But I was like, come on, Lemos. And, she's a crafty vet. She's got it. But Jillian Robertson completely dominated her on the ground. But from what I saw on the feet, I think Mackenzie Dern's going to be able to negate some of the ground game, use her striking, and maybe pull off like a 49-46 decision over Jillian Robertson. All right, my spiel over. What do you think?
All right. Time for the real master of women's MMA to talk. I see what you're saying. All right, and I see what you're saying. But what if I told you Mackenzie Dern, known for having not the greatest mental when it comes to fighting, when it comes to like getting comfortable, when it comes to, I think that I don't know. I have never really liked Mackenzie Dern's like persona, like her like kind of persona. I like the way that she fights. I think that she's a good fighter and stuff. But what I will say is, you're saying she's an upgraded version of Jillian Robertson. I'm saying she's an older version and a more comfortable version than Jillian Robertson.
Okay.
Think about what this means for Jillian Robertson. She gets to fight Mackenzie Dern instead of Zhang Wei Li to get a belt.
Yeah.
Like, for me, you have an addiction to always betting on Amanda Lemos and losing. I have a real addiction to always betting on Jillian Robertson and winning. All right? I've been high on her. She's kind of like Jasmine Jazzadisius. She's someone that I've always been like, okay, this is like a clear win, and now she's finally getting this like real big jump up, and I'm not gonna stop riding the train till the tracks fall off. Once the tracks fall off, maybe I'll think about it, and once the tracks reach China, then I'm hopping off. But
It's over.
It's over. But yeah, I think that this is Jillian Robertson. So, the sub's gonna be tough, but I just see it happening. Nah, I'll go Jillian Robertson decision. Jillian Robertson decision.
Okay, so now part 2 of this. Where is Zhang Wei Li? Why is she not in this?
Dude, she has not been really talkative about her whole movement with fighting. What I do know is that she's still training. The thing that sucks is I don't know if she's training to go back down to strawweight or go to flyweight, which I feel like I've heard her say that she wants her belt back in strawweight, but I've also feel like I've heard her say that she's staying, which I just don't like. I don't like her frame at flyweight. I think she's too small for it. But she's my goat, and I just want to see this happen. I just want to see this happen so that way we can move on. I'm sure Zhang Weili will be in the crowd. If all the dominoes fall right, Zhang Weili will be in the crowd. If they brought her on stage after 2, or like in the ring after 2, and Jillian Robertson or Mackenzie Dern called her out and tried to trash talk her, and she's just like, great job, like, let's fight. That would be hype. That would be a fever dream.
Well, as the self-proclaimed women's MMA expert, I looked up the rankings. What is going on with women's MMA right now? I mean, Shevchenko hasn't fought this year. Kayla Harrison hasn't fought this year. We're just now getting Mackenzie Dern in August, the first women's title defense. I'm looking at like the top 5. Like, Yan Xiaonan hasn't fought this year. Like, has Tatiana Suarez? I think Jandaroba got a win recently, but like Grasso, I guess, is coming up as well. But I don't know. I feel like what's going on with these divisions? We're not getting.
Well, we have been, all right. There has been some really good. I mean, we cannot forget that Alexa Grasso fight versus Macy Barber. Yeah. That was insane, and that was high stakes. That was big for the division, because if Macy Barber wins that, that's huge for her. Alexa Grasso winning that, it makes a real problem for the UFC, because
number 4 versus they're
gonna make Grasso versus Shevchenko 4. Like, there's a chance.
Talia Silva did open I remember she was in the first Paramount card. She beat Rose.
Exactly. that was in January. Yes, there is slower movement. You also have to realize there's 5 less weight classes. Maybe 4, because
That
there's only
sounds right.
3. I think there's 5 less weight classes for women's, so that there's that many less fights happening in general, and also the women's roster is much smaller. So this is kind of how it's always been. It's very
Well, I guess from that point, Tom hasn't fought this year technically, but we did have an interim fight. Islam hasn't fought this year. He's fighting now. Gaethje's probably not going to fight again before the end of the year. Peter Yan hasn't fought this year, so there's,
women MMA fans are all like the fans of women MMA are also a lot less vocal than just the people who are just fans of like male MMA, like who hate on women's MMA or whatever. So like people, or maybe I'm wrong actually in that take, but like regardless, there's much more. It's an uphill battle for people who like women's MMA. So I think that the UFC sees that, and they really, and again, they have less to work with, so they don't really book that much. I don't know what it's like for like women's recovery time. It might be different from like how quick a male can recover from like a fight. It genuinely might be different. Like there's just actual genetic stuff that might differ as to why. But I feel like it's always kind of been like this. As someone who's followed women's MMA alongside MMA, men's MMA since I've watched it, like it's kind of always been like this, where the big ranking fights that we see so often, like as fight night, like fight night main events for males MMA, like it's just much more few and far and in between. So it's been tough. I think, yeah, and in general, champions have been a lot less frequent in fighting. I don't know whose fault that is, because I honestly, it seems a lot more like UFC, because it seems like a lot of champions want to fight quick, and then the UFC kind of paces them out a lot more with this new Paramount format, I think.
Yeah. Well, I always remember one of the first like UFC cards I locked in for. There was 3 title fights. It was like Amanda Nunes was fighting that super lanky girl, like Megan something.
Aldana, or was it Aldana?
It was Megan Anderson, I think. And you had Aljamain versus Jan, and then the main event was Jan Blachowicz versus Izzy. So I was, ever since then, I was just blessed, I guess. I haven't seen more than 2 title fights on a card. And they know we're gonna tune in, and there's no really incentivized format. Like there's no more pay-per-views. So there's no point in building like stacked cards. I am curious, before we get into the main event, Dana did say something about like he's got the next big card planned out. Obviously, they had the White House. So I'm curious to see what that'll be. But
I mean, I think it's pretty obvious what it's going to be. I think it's probably going to be
Coliseum.
Oh my God, no! I don't think. I think he said that he's not doing any more in like crazy events for a while. Like in terms of where they are, I think he's talking about crazy in terms of like another 3 title fight card.
Okay.
Because I mean, they've been holding off on a lot of champs.
Yeah.
Because I think they've been teasing. It's Jan Marab 3 and then someone else. I think it might be
Volk Evloev.
It's either Volk. Oh, it might be Volk Evloev. It was either Volk Evloev or Van Pantoja.
Van Pantoja's going down at 331, so we'll be back in September.
Oh yeah, that kind of knows. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that card looks good too. A little more. The way I was trying to describe this card too, and I didn't want to shit all over this card because I think this card's actually like bottom loaded. Like I feel like the bottom half is pretty good, but then it's like you expect to get more and more. It's kind of just the same level of like good but not great, So we'll see.
I genuinely think it's just the issue is that there's no movement that's going to happen from this. Like there's barely any. Like it's Jalin Turner and like Mansur that like and Ribovics and maybe Alvarez too. Like the main event actually has a little bit of movement, but nothing crazy. And most numbered cards you expect to have crazy movement. Like I feel like that's the big thing that everyone's like kind of why they're attaching it to the rank numbers, which does coincide a little bit, but not totally. Like there's nothing that's like that's going to cause big movement.
Yeah. All that being said, your official pick for this one, I'm saying Mackenzie Dern decision.
Yeah, Robertson decision. Jalin.
Okay, so to go the distance, classic 5 rounds. All right, welterweight. This is the big one. Ian Machado-Garry's in the news, like I mentioned before, maybe for all the wrong reasons, saying different stuff that not people like. I don't know. It's been hard to track what people are on about on a day-to-day basis. But all that being said, he's built himself into this title shot. He definitely has deserved it. His only loss is against Shavkat, who he seemingly fucked up his knee so bad. I think Shavkat's got like 2 surgeries, still has not fought in the UFC. I don't know if he's still in the rankings even, but this is someone you saw in person, right? You did see Islam. You have the shirt on. GOAT debates are in tow. I'm not sure I'm qualified to really comment on that, but Islam is making his first defense now at welterweight. He kind of had his way with JDM. Unfortunately for me, and JDM's gone, and that's obviously got beat up by Praches. But I'm excited for this fight to go down because I want to see Morales and Praches get in there and see what they're able to do against whoever wins this. I guess Praches probably wouldn't fight Gary if he wins. But for me, we've seen a year of the upset, right, where it's Gaethje walking out of, that was a crazy video of him walking out of wherever he was, out of the White House, and then pulling off the crazy upset versus Ilya. It's Sean Strickland pulling off the crazy upset against Islam. Even, I don't know, other things have happened that I'm forgetting at the moment. But does the trend continue with Ian Machado-Garry, or do we come back to reality and say, you know what, Islam's just better than everybody else, and we can't buy into this hype? What do you think of this fight? Take it away.
Okay. What I will say is you're right. There's big implications for GOAT debate. All right? There are big implications. I think people are really – there's 2 things that are happening, and they both have to do with Ian Garry. I think people are really underestimating his true skill set, which, sure, there's a lot of screenshots where he looks goofy in the cage. But, he is a good mixed martial artist. He is a clown, but he is a good mixed martial artist. I do think that there's a lot of, always with MMA fans, I think that there's a lot more weighted on the stuff he says. I think I can never tell if he's actually trying to rage bait or not, because it really does seem like it, because he says things that are crazy, but even crazier to an MMA fan. Because there's certain things that we won't you don't need to go into, but there's certain things that the average MMA fan think compared to just a normal person or normal fans of other medias. And I will say those are the 2 fronts that are fighting inside me right now. Is I think people are really sleeping on Ian Garry's game, and I think people are really, and I think that so much is happening around Ian Garry that there's no way this doesn't mess with his head. If it does, or if it doesn't, then he's actually kind of figured out this whole publicity thing. Yeah, this whole game. And the other thing I will say that we still need to be super wary of is Islam at this weight class. We only saw him against JDM, and it was such a dominant performance that and nothing against your guy, but it was such a dominant performance.
I was going to say, look at JDM versus Praches. He looked like a midget in there.
Dude, oh my God, that fight was brutal, man. I felt for you. I'm not even I don't hate JDM, but I'm much more of a Praches fan than a JDM fan, and I watched that and put myself in your shoes, and I was just oh my God, make it stop.
Well, I like Praches too, so I'm hoping Morales or Praches can get in here, but yeah, that is a very valid point, because I think it could look like you face these guys off in the middle, and I don't have the numbers in front of me of height versus whatever and reach, but that is a technical problem for Islam. I don't know if he's fought somebody this big, because JDM's kind of his size. In terms of height and reach, most likely. So, yeah.
Dude, Islam's 5'10", Ian Garry's 6'3". And then the reach difference isn't as crazy, but it's 7.5 to 74.5. Or, sorry, 70.5 to 74.5, which is still, in 4-inch difference is kind of crazy. You're right, exactly. I don't think he's fought anyone of this size. But if I'm not mistaken, I think Garry went and trained with the Dagestanis for like a very short bit. Am I
I
wrong?
remember that. I think I remember that.
Yeah, I think they shitted on him, but I think that he went and learned, and I think they've since been like, I don't think they've ever actually outwardly said that he doesn't have grappling. I think because usually Islam's very quick to say that to people about people, but I haven't heard that yet. But maybe I'm just not in the loop. I don't know. But what I will say is that this is another one where I think the odds are carried by what's happening outside of the ring versus what's going to happen inside of the ring. To a degree, because I think there's always going to be Islam was always going to be the favorite in this fight. If Islam was the underdog in this fight, oh my God, we would be making, we'd be putting the house on that.
Yeah.
But this is a little tough. This is again one that I'm definitely going to parlay because I definitely see Islam winning. But it's just you have to be nervous. And my friends, I've said this on the pod a bunch of times, and I've said this to you, Dub. My friends are huge Islam, huge Dagestani, big wrestler fans. So like we were always going to go to the New York card, but the fact that it was John Jones, my friend Joey's favorite fighter, and then Islam, probably my friend Joey's favorite current fighter, like is insane. Like so I'm truly excited to see what happens here. And if I were to put myself into the future, we'll be reading the headlines of Islam with a semi-battered face, giving all the respect to Ian Garry, but in the end having the belt still with him. And I'll go Islam by... Ooh, dude, Islam's always tough on how to pick how he's going to win.
Yeah. Well, and he said... against JDM, he was playing it safe. I don't know if you saw that quote, but he was like, I just wanted the second belt. I didn't want to like go for anything crazy. And, that was a very like Chimaev versus DDP fight where there was clearly just like getting the grappling off, winning rounds. So I'm curious to see, does he kind of go for that same sort of approach or does he try and be more aggressive in this one? But that is something he said. I did read that or heard that from someone. But yeah,
That's a little nerve-wracking. I didn't hear that, but that's a little nerve-wracking because what happened to Chimaev after he didn't play it safe? Shit, man. But what I will say is Islam's striking is miles ahead of Khamzat's.
I'm going to see if I can pull up the exact quote, but I'm of the same mindset as you. I believe this is going to be a tougher fight, and we've announced my support for JDM on the channel, but I think Ian Machado-Garry presents a much different challenge than JDM does, where JDM had one of the best fights I've ever seen in my life against Bilal, whatever. I'm not going to have to rehash that, but Ian Machado-Garry is like he even had a worse fight against Bilal. Like JDM looked better against Bilal, but I feel like there's something to Ian Machado-Garry that he can just like muck up a fight, like him versus Shavkat. Shavkat was destroying dudes, like everybody that got in there with him first or second round, it's over. Like it's just
him versus Praches.
Yeah, it's a point of if not when. And yeah, he destroyed Praches for 24 minutes, and that last minute, if you're a Garry supporter, was nerve-wracking. I told my boy to bet on Praches, and I was like, oh shit, to watch right now because he might come back and whatever. But yeah, I mean, he has looked great, and he's even in the fights that he hasn't looked as good in. I remember against Michael Page, that was kind of a nothing fight, but he was able to get the win because he was able to do more. So I do think there is something to be said for Ian Machado-Garry, kind of like keeping it even in a sense. And he does have the reach and height advantage. All that being said, though, I think a lot of people are going to go with Ian Machado-Garry just because of everything's gone crazy this year. Like upsets are happening left and right. It's been the year of like whatever. And there are people who are, anti-Dagestani, anti-whatever.
Yeah.
I think this is an Islam decision. I'm thinking similar to the Mackenzie Dern fight. I think we're getting 10 rounds between the two title fights. I think this is going to be like a 49-46 situation or like maybe even a 47. I don't know the math of whatever, but I think Islam wins 3 rounds to 2 or 4 rounds to 1. And this does go the distance. Ian Machado-Garry proves to be a valiant fighter. And I agree. I completely see what you're saying of Islam at the end being like, Ian is very good and whatever, but and then we get a crazy striker in there against him, and I'm curious to see how that plays out with an even bigger guy in Praches or Morales. There's actually rumors of those two fighting, which would be an insane fight, but I don't know if that'll happen. But I'm going Islam by decision. But if I won't be upset if Ian Machado-Garry pulls it off. I don't hate him. I know a lot of people out there are not really supporting what he's doing, but I'm kind of trying to put that stuff aside, especially when I'm trying to follow a fighter. But I think there is a chance for Ian Machado-Garry. I think these odds are somewhat fair. I'd probably have Islam at minus 250. I think that's what he was against Arman Saruki, and I got to see this kind of a similar challenge in a way. So maybe a little bit inflated on Islam, and maybe it comes down closer to fight night. But like you said, Islam by decision.
Yeah, I think my pick is also Islam by decision. That is such a funny comparison, Arman to Ian Machado-Garry, because you put them side to side and they're just completely different people. But what I will say, people give Ian Garry a whole the most shit, and I'm not an Ian Garry fan. I think that what I will say is one of the things that he genuinely excels at is he has a really good fight IQ. Like you said with the Michael Venom Page, he does what he needs to get a win, and when he's losing, against Shavkat or in the moments against Praches, even though he was up, he found a way to not die. But against Shavkat, losing, knowing what pace you have to fight at to possibly get a split or possibly get a win, I think that's in Islam. Obviously, I think is the person with the number one fight IQ in the UFC right now. And I think that's very arguable, but I think Ian Machado-Garry is up there too. I think these are very big MMA minds coming, fighting each other. So I think that's something to very much look out for, the different reactions that they're going to have. They're both guys that, Islam more so, but they're both guys that like to strike, but can grapple really well and can always go to grappling to, not so much Ian, but Islam can always go to grappling if he needs to. But I'm just so interested to see how this goes, because I really hope Islam doesn't go for the striking, because I don't think that's going to work. However, I don't think but we've seen Islam get chinned, bro. It's tough, man. This is tough. This is really, really tough. I'm going Islam on the big parlay that I'll say at the end. But, yeah, this is much tougher than people are making it out.
So I have the quote. He said he does not like his fight against Jack Della Maddalena and admits he played it safe because he wanted the second belt.
Okay, that's not as bad, but it has the same rumblings of I'm going to do something crazy in my second fight.
So your final pick, do you think Islam decision or Islam is able to knock out?
I think, yeah. I think Islam decision. I think Ian Garry's too crafty to get knocked out or submitted. I think if Islam does do that to Ian Garry, then I think that's the biggest statement win you can have here for Islam. The finish over Ian Garry is ginormous, and I think that it will only age good, or only age well, because I think Ian Garry's going to remain one of those guys that, especially now that he's such a heel, I think he's going to really stay in the UFC's kind of, as long as he wants to, as long as he can take it, he's going to stay in UFC cards for as long as he wants. I think he's such a heel now and he doesn't really mess up that much. He doesn't say anything that's actually the UFC needs to suspend him or something. I haven't heard of him popping for PEDs. He doesn't really miss weight from what I've seen, even for his build. I think
he was the backup fighter too at some point for something. I remember
he was against Bilal. I think it was Bilal JDM.
Okay,
I might be wrong, but I think it's Bilal JDM.
That sounds right. Yeah.
But yeah, right. I love that. I love this fight. I think it's a very close one.
Before we move to our best bets, any embedded insights?
I've been slacking. I haven't watched yet. I've been doing the thing where I've just been watching them all on fight day, kind of in the morning, eat breakfast.
Get ready for it.
Today's the fight day, and then usually when I finish that, because I wake up a little bit later on Saturdays if I don't have work, I'll watch that. Then I'll watch the weigh-ins or the usually the press conference if I haven't watched that yet. But if not, I'll watch the weigh-ins. Then I watch I watch the weigh-in show. Sorry, I watched the weigh-in show, which if you haven't just watched that, if you need something to put on while you're just doing shit on fight day, highly recommend. It's all those clips that you see of DC talking the craziest shit you've ever heard in your life. I don't know if you've ever seen clips of him just saying crazy stuff to Laura Sanko or
stuff.
Those are all from the weigh-in show. It is all they do is they just talk bullshit and have random segments while each fighter weighs in, and then they'll check in as people weigh in because it takes forever. The weigh-in's like, I forget how long the span is. I think it's like 4 hours or something like that. And it's the night before, I believe. So it's an awesome little thing. If no MMA fan or UFC fans ever tried it, I highly recommend it. I don't know how good this one will probably be good because they don't need to talk about good fight. It's not fight predictions usually. It's usually just bullshit.
DC can't predict because he's a commentator. So
exactly, yeah. So.
All right, let's get to our best bets. You said you have a parlay for us.
Yes, sir. So the parlay is people that I believe in, but I just don't like how small the payout is. So I'm putting together Neil Magny. I know he's one of the ones that's bringing it up a lot. Neil Magny, Orolbai. And then I'm going Lucas Fernando on his debut, which is scary, but we're going to do it. I'm going with Donte Johnson. All right. McConico, I do not believe in. I'm going with Charles Johnson. I'm going with Ribovics after that. Mansur getting those big no money, but something when it's in a parlay. Jalin Turner. And then I'll throw in Islam. And then I have a separate one, just dogs. These are all straights. These are not parlayed. Jillian Robertson, Chidi, and who was my other one? And Neil Neil Magny's. Who's my other one? Oh, Tresean. No, Tresean Gore. Yeah, I think. No, Tresean Gore's. Fuck.
Luque, maybe? Slight dog.
Yeah, it must have been Luque. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going with Luque.
All right. Well, as the time of recording, we don't have the props out, so I'm just going to read off my picks and make something great of these with good odds. So for the main event, I like Islam, and I like Islam by decision. So I like him method-wise and also the fight to go the distance. Same thing for the co-main event. I got Dern, and then that fight to go the distance or over on rounds, whatever is better money. Don't really love a ton of the main card fights, but we'll go to Ribovics via KO. I think that one's a lock. Hopefully that's like minus 200 or slightly better. Joel Alvarez money line. One last ride with Joel Alvarez before we stop betting him forever if he loses. Vicente Luque, slight dog, plus 104. I've got that dual methods, either Brahimaj via submission or Magny via decision. We'll see if that's a good payout as well. And then ending it off, we have Orolbai versus Wells. I like the over on the rounds there. Hopefully it's 1.5, but even 2.5, I might take a chance on that. So that's where we leave up UFC 330. Thanks, Shane, again for joining me. You're on Twitch still these days, right? I think yes. I saw a notification recently.
Yeah, yes, sir. We've been going live here and there a little bit. I've been half planning to be more consistent with it. I'm always so slow with it, but it's something that I'm trying to get going. And I know coming up, I have a complete week off work, so I'm thinking of doing a lot of streams during that time, if not one huge stream. So be ready. I've done marathon streams in the past. Probably not many fans, but if there was any fans, they remember I did a entire playthrough of the Incredible Hulk PS2, and it took me like 2.5 days, and I slept on camera, and it was crazy. And we streamed the whole way through. So there might be something like that. I'm thinking about doing something crazy with to hint at maybe something crazy with Elden Ring or something. So be on the lookout for that.
I was going to ask, I think last time we spoke, you were entering a tournament.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I don't think that went actually really well. Like it was really, so it was a 64-man tournament. We got 2 buys because their teammates didn't show up or they weren't ready to. The tournament organizer was really strict about being there on time, which I don't know why people were so late. They're in a tournament, just be ready. But so we had 2 buys and then 1-2. So we made it to the round of 8.
Elite 8,
I think. Yeah, Elite 8, I think.
Nice.
I think that's right. Yeah, Elite 8 or Yeah, I think Elite 8. So we did great. Like it was awesome. It was old school vibes, and then we lost twice because it was double elim, and it was bad. But after that,
Hey, top 8th. That's pretty good.
yeah, not double elim,
All right.
single elims, lost ones. Sorry.
No worries. We'll have your links in the description, and I'm sure we'll see you back for future UFC events. I know 331's announced. That card looks pretty good. I think I brought that up during the stream, but a bunch of title fights that we've seen or we haven't seen yet, including maybe Merab getting back in there. So we'll definitely be in touch as we get into the fall and winter seasons. So it's been a pleasure today. Take our bets, win some money. Let's stay hot out there. Let's have a great fight card, guys. And, check some of these guys out. It might be worth it. We might get a crazy card. You never know. So
watch again. I can't stress this enough. We know going in here, there's going to be no motion in any rankings realistically, other than the championship fights. Watch it and enjoy the fights that are going to happen, because all of these fights have amazing upside. All of these fights have the chance to be bangers. There's not a lot of the most snoozer fights are literally the championship fights, but they have the most motion. So it's tough. But I get it, guys. But just lock in and enjoy the fights. That's all I can ask.